Okay, thanks for starting the recording, Sally. Welcome everyone to the October Town Hall. I'm your guest host this month, Ryan Doherty with GeoExchange. We are the sister organization to the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association, and we are focused mostly on public policy and advocacy. So I think Jeff thought it would make sense for me to host this month, particularly since he is busy in Cleveland working on the new CSA standard. And I'm honored to be here with some great leaders from state and provincial organizations in the industry today. And we're going to get to this great panel in just a few moments. But first, I'm going to share some slides so I can update everyone on some IGSHPA news. Just get into presentation mode. Share my screen. Okay. All right, first of all, I'd like to thank Climate Master for sponsoring this month's town hall. Really appreciate that support. We couldn't do this without support of companies like Climate Master. And let's get right into some of the latest IGSHPA news. You can submit abstracts for these events on the IGSHPA website. Just go to the training and events button. There are webinar advertising opportunities for next year. And if you've been attending these with any regularity, you know what a great resource they are. I'm constantly linking people to the strong and growing library of the Town Hall and Dig Deeper videos that are hosted on the IGSHPA YouTube channel. It's a tremendous resource. There are certain webinars that are highly technical and specific and wonderful resources for industry professionals. And then there are others that are more broad and high level, sort of like the topics we're going to cover today. So a wealth of resources there, and we hope to keep these webinars thriving in 2025. So please weigh in and tell us what you'd like to hear about or what you'd like to present during the upcoming Dig Deepers and Town Halls. It's right around the corner. It'll be here before we know it. But in March, the IGSHPA and Geothermal Alliance of Illinois joint conference is happening in Champaign, Illinois, right at the campus of the University of Illinois. I'm thrilled to be visiting my old stomping grounds in partnership with GAOI and IGSHPA. The room block is filling up, so if you haven't registered and reserved your conference hotel room yet, please do that. They're still accepting abstracts, so I know that a number have already been submitted, and the few entries that we've gotten already are looking great, but we certainly do need more. We want to create a robust suite of content for this conference, but it's shaping up very nicely, and we would love to have your sponsorship and also for your company to exhibit as well. Here are the existing conference sponsors. The IGSHPA conference couldn't be put on without the support of these companies. We're really grateful to them for that. There are still a number of slots available, including for that top diamond sponsor. So I hope someone among you will go for the diamond and take that top level sponsorship. I mentioned the exhibition hall. It's starting to fill up, but there's some good spots left. Really appreciate those that have already booked their exhibits. I think we're going to have a great turnout. Geo Outlook magazine is back. This had been a long-standing publication of the ground source heat pump industry. I'm thrilled with the work that IGSHPA has put into this, the folks who have supported it and advertised in it. It's going out through BNP Media to a very, very wide audience. So it really behooves you to get your brand out there, to get your company's identity out there into the broader ecosystem through this wonderful magazine. the IGSHPA membership program. There are new levels. You really need to be plugging into the IGSHPA directory. This is something that is a great tool for showing the breadth of your focus and reaching customers and folks that are going to the IGSHPA website. There's some discounted certification renewals for new members. Just go to the IGSHPA website to learn more on the membership page. Jeff has mentioned this before, but there's a couple of new databases on the IGSHPA website. However, they're not complete. We need your help to fill these out. The project database, this is something that it's kind of near and dear to my heart, particularly since last week, Dr. Steve Kavanaugh showed me a list he had dug up of literally hundreds of projects that in some ways have been lost to time. That's the beauty and also the curse of geothermal. You put it in and you forget about it. It just works after that. We need to know where your projects are so we can put them in this database and create a robust repository of geothermal projects. We also need to know about licensing and CEU requirements in particular states and other jurisdictions. This will be a wonderful repository and resource for folks who are entering the industry and others who just want to know where noteworthy geothermal projects are. There are CEUs available for this town hall. If you'd like to get CEUs toward your IGSHPA certifications, just include your name and email in the chat, and you can make sure to get CEUs. You can also get CEUs for recordings. Just send an email with the necessary information to info@igshpa.org. And before we get started, let's just cover some quick housekeeping. Use the chat for speaker questions. There should be a Q&A or chat function. I know it kind of depends on what version of Teams you're using. But if you put those in the chat, our facilitator, Sally Stevens, can field them for the speakers today. And we are recording this session. If you're having difficulty using the chat, you should accept the invite, use the Q&A, and raise your hand, and we'll unmute your microphone. So I hope everybody's able to chime in. We like to have a robust discussion today. And for legal purposes, just a disclaimer, the upcoming presentation represents the opinion of the presenter and does not represent any official position, opinion, or endorsement of any products or services by IGSHPA or its members. IGSHPA town halls and Dig Deeper webinars are for member updates and education on the latest information in the geothermal heat pump industry and are not meant to endorse one technology brand over another. It is the presenter's responsibility to disclose any conflict of interest or position that may arise in the content of the webinar. You got that, everybody? All right. With that out of the way, let's get down to business. I've got some folks I love working with here today. So I'll just go around the room and let each of them introduce themselves. I'll start with Chad. Chad, would you like to say hello? Oh, you're muted, Chad.
Yes, thank you. My name's Chad Brzezinski. I'm with a board member with the Ontario Geothermal Association. Have spent a couple of decades in the geothermal heat pump industry with a distributor in Canada here. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Chad. Really glad to have you. Kathy, would you like to go next?
Hi, I'm Kathy Ridley. I am with Geothermal Alliance of Illinois. I'm the executive director. I have been with GAOI for about 3 years, but recently became the executive director. John Freitag, which many of you probably know, started GAOI, I don't even know, 14 years ago, I believe. But John and I were in association management together. I remember when he started GAOI. I am really new to geothermal, but learning very quickly. And I have my own association management company and also am executive director of the Home Builders Association of Springfield.
Home builders and geothermal professionals are kind of a match made in heaven. So thanks, Kathy. You have big shoes to fill, but you've done a wonderful job thus far, and it's been great working with you. Brandon, would you like to say hello?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Brandon Mahoney. I'm with the Michigan Geothermal Energy Association, MGEA. God, I think I've been a member for 17, 18 years. I've been the president of the MGEA for the last 4 years. Um, my personal business is, I own a heating and cooling installation company contractor. So um, just love what the organization can bring for contractors and everybody else.
Thanks, Brandon. I had the pleasure of attending your conference this past June in Lansing, and it was fantastic. We can talk
Thanks.
a little bit more about conferences later in the session. Jeremiah, how about you go next?
Yeah, my name is Jeremiah Strode. I actually work with Ryan at GeoExchange, but I'm also the chair of the board for the Missouri Geothermal Association. We're brand new. It's just a little bit over a year, I believe, that we've been around. So I'm still kind of learning the ropes on all that, but I've got a lot of background in the utilities. I came from a rural electric cooperative originally, heavily involved with the ground source heat pump programs and energy efficiency. So it was a really great opportunity to join GeoExchange and kind of keep going down that path. Great to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremiah. It's great having you. And last but certainly not least, Christine.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christine Hoffer. I am the executive director for the New York Geothermal Energy Organization, fondly known as NIGEO or NYGEO, depending on where you're at in the country. And thanks for having us. And I also do want to say that most of us that are on this call, as well as a few in the audience, are part of the ACT committee with IGSHPA, which is the Advocacy Communication Task Force to support IGSHPA. And thanks for having us on this call today.
Thank you, Christine. And I think you mentioning the ACT committee is a good start for this conversation because really ACT came from two separate committees. There was a communications committee, and then there was an advocacy committee. And at a certain point, I think it might have been 2 years ago at the IGSPA conference in Las Vegas, uh, there was a lot of discussion about, well, communications is outward focused, and so is advocacy. And wouldn't it make sense to kind of merge those because we want to sing with one unified voice and communicate to stakeholders, but also advocate for our positions? And it was only natural that the leadership of the state and provincial and regional, in the case of NEGPA, geo associations, got together and started formulating a kind of a unified strategy to kind of sing with one voice and to really bridge divides that might exist between different states, because every state, every province is different. You can't have a one size fits all approach, but there is a common thread that ties them all together, and that common thread in our case is the power and the potential of ground source heat pump technology. So before we get into your individual state associations, I would ask each of you to reflect on that commonality and think back to some of those initial conversations we were having 18 months ago or so, before the ACT committee really came together. Christine, you were there in the room. What do you remember from that time?
So the biggest thing with the conversation is, and Donna says it best, and I know she's in the audience, but is that we all need to be saying the same thing the same way. And, don't say heat pump, say ground source heat pump. You can make a cheer out of that if you really wanted to, but that we all have the same needs and we all have the same struggles, and collectively we are stronger together. And that's really what it came down to. And our goal as the ACT group is to create toolboxes, if you will, so that you as members supporting geothermal in your own organizations can just pull from that toolbox. And so, I always use the Pepsi analogy. If you get a Pepsi in Michigan and you get a Pepsi in New York, the can's the same, the flavor's the same, everything's the same. So we want our messaging to be the same thing, so that, if somebody hears something geothermal or ground source heat pump, they know what that is.
Yeah, that's a great point. And to that point, what quickly emerged was the Geothermal Month, National Geothermal Month, which is now being rebranded as International Geothermal Month. Kathy, do you want to make mention of that, how that came about, and kind of our experience with getting that off the ground in the first year?
Yeah, I believe, that both committees, and we have a great marketer on our committee. I have to tell you that Donna, again, in the audience, she is a great marketer and has really helped out a lot. But anyway, it got started. We just wanted a month to really focus on geothermal, and we thought April would be a great month since it is Earth Day in April. And then just recently, we wanted to make it International Ground Source Heat Pump Month, our National Geothermal Month, and then building the toolbox and having all the marketing material available at our members' hands and even our non-members. We really want to promote geothermal, and we thought this was a great way to do it and get everybody unified and with the same message.
Christine, anything to add?
Yeah, and then I think that's it. And we started it. We didn't give ourselves a lot of time last year to get it off the ground. So this year we're spending a lot more time on that. We will be coming at you later with Earth Day and having geothermal action on Earth Day. We're working with the what's the tree group? I'm forgetting what their name is.
Arbor Day.
The Arbor, right, to plant trees. So we'll have working with them so we can provide trees, because I think one of the facts is that one geothermal system will save 750 trees. So we're using that as an example of the importance of geothermal in decarbonizing our planet.
I'm really excited for this coming April. I think it's going to be a wonderful event, and I'm hopeful and optimistic that the whole industry will rally around it. So let's talk about your individual state or provincial associations and their reason for being. I think that I certainly know why you would want to have a state or provincial geo association, but I want to hear it from the leaders as to sort of the value, the purpose, the mission, and the vision of your organization. And if you'd like to speak a little bit about the background or the origins of it, some of the history, and where you see your position in the market, the sort of larger energy transition ecosystem today. So I know that's a lot. So, just give us a few pithy comments on your organization, mission, vision, and where you see yourselves going in the coming years. And I'll start with Chad.
Wonderful. Yeah. So a little bit of history about the Ontario Geothermal Association. So probably a couple of decades ago, or a decade and a half, anyways, started out as a group of largely, I would say, maybe some drilling contractors and some others in the industry that formed a kind of a group in Ontario here, and it morphed over the years into kind of a more inclusive group of contractors and other stakeholders that were in the industry, and to what we have today. We're affiliated with a group called the HRAI, is a group that we're affiliated as well. You guys may have heard of, and I think, I mean, our goal is to really kind of bring the industry together here in Ontario. I think maybe we represent more than just Ontario here in Canada. I think we play a role federally as well, like nationally here, and we'll continue to do so. I think we just want to be a place where people in the industry can gather together, and again, collectively, I think together we are much stronger, and that's our role, I guess, as an association, is to kind of try and be that place where the whole industry can kind of come together as one in Ontario here, and have one common message that we can get across to consumers, to government, to kind of all the other stakeholders that are involved as well.
It's fantastic, Chad. I'm really excited about what the future holds for Ontario and all of your sister provinces. Brandon, why don't you tell us a little bit about MGEA, your history, and where y'all are heading?
Sure. I think the MGEA, I think its original mission statement was, along the lines of being able to provide the highest quality geothermal installations, and making sure that we had people that were trained and et cetera. I don't know. I kind of think of it a little differently. I think if you strip it down and you look at the root of what we're trying to do is we're trying to get more geothermal systems installed, right? I mean, it's as basic as you can get it. I think that what the state organizations can do, I think it's a great place to look at it from a consumer standpoint. It's great to have contractors and manufacturers and all talking together, but when you're a consumer and you're looking, well, I'm interested in geo, where do I go? You go to the internet, right? So you start Googling and you come up with contractors, but a state organization can be much more unbiased than a contractor or a manufacturer, right? So I think it's a great resource for the consumer side of things to access local people in their area that have that consistent messaging. We made a decision in our group because it was, echoing a lot of what Chad was saying. It kind of became, lack of a better term, a good old boy network. It was the same people every year showing up and doing these events. And we actually hired an outside consultant in our organization, and we've been putting a ton of work into, defining what the MGEA wants to be when they grow up, as we call it, and deciding, what do we want to become? How do we become that? So, we want to be a more professional organization. We want to grow it to a certain amount of members. We want to offer value to every member that joins. So there's a lot of work behind it, but it's all been rewarding so far. And I think our group is really heading in the right direction.
Yeah, and it's interesting for somebody who's been in the industry for over a decade now to see the evolution of a state association from kind of the same people, same few dozen people year after year getting together once a year to kind of gripe about the latest headache to something bigger and broader. And I've seen that in your conferences. It's folks who are not part of the geothermal industry are coming to find out more about it. It's been amazing to see that evolution. So as an organization that is much less far along in its evolution, Jeremiah, I know you said you got Missouri Geo off the ground about a year ago. Where do you see yourselves going in the next year or two? What are some of the things you're going to be focusing on? Are there cues you're taking from other state organizations? Just tell us a little bit about Missouri Geo.
So Missouri Geo about a year ago, it's kind of a funny story. I just chatting with a couple guys from a utility that I work with on the Geo Exchange side, and I kind of threw out jokingly, you guys should start up a state association. And they actually sounded interested in it. And, I brought this up to another person at a conference I was at, another one of our board members currently. And he said, yeah, I've been wanting to do that for years. And I said, well, we've got 3 people now. So let's just get the ball rolling. We've got interest and there's always a need for this. And long story short, a year later, we have an association going. We are brand new. I'm hoping to absorb everything that's being said today and from other conversations during, say, the ACT gatherings to see what works, because not everything works in every state with every person. I mean, we're made up of such a diverse group of people. But I think our main goal in Missouri, at least, is to have an association that can focus on Missouri specific needs, along with just the overall needs of the industry. Every state's got different obstacles and challenges, and you need somebody local to help tackle that. And I think that's what role we're going to play. We're also a voice for all of the contractors and vendors out there that maybe aren't big enough to have their own person to go speak to local government, or have somebody to help with marketing. And that's where we can kind of step in and take some of that information and the resources that IGSHPA and GeoExchange is developing, and be able to pass that along and share that with our members and help them grow in the industry as well. So kind of being that sounding board, being that support network, and also to, as Brandon said, make sure we're staying up to a certain level of quality in the state, because everybody knows you get a bad install and that just puts a black eye on the industry, even if it's just one. So trying to kind of reduce the chances of that happening, that's another role we're wanting to play. But again, we're brand new, and we're just now kind of getting the ball rolling on those things. So I don't have a whole lot of other detail besides grand goals and hopes for the organization.
Well, it's been great to see it mature and evolve in that short amount of time, and to see you kind of develop that focus and set of targets. Kathy, I know you said GAOI has been around for 14 years, but you're relatively new to leading the organization. That GAOI was really my first entree or entry into the geo industry, and John Freitag taught me much of what I know. I still got him on speed dial. But GAOI is kind of growing and evolving as well. Tell us a little bit about the organization and what your hopes are for the future.
Yeah, we were very fortunate to have John at the helm for so many years. And he's not gone. He's still here. And as I said, he'll probably never be gone because, he did give birth to this organization. So he is very, very passionate. And a matter of fact, of course, I've learned everything I know about geothermal from John, and he's a great educator. But yeah, I mean, we first of all, I think everybody, has kind of already said it, but associations do provide that unified voice. We are here to help our members succeed. We are here to educate the public. And I think Illinois has done a great job. We have developed some group buy programs, which we've gotten our contractors involved. And then we have these power hours that basically give an hour of education to the citizens of Illinois in certain areas. So that has been something that has helped us bring in new members, educate the public, and we keep expanding with those throughout Illinois. We have one in the Chicagoland area, one kind of northwest, and one in central Illinois. And I believe that we have to, as an association, continue the message of geothermal, and it's all about educating the public. I mean, I have to say I'm a prime example. I kind of knew what geothermal was. I thought, oh well, that's just something that's really expensive, and that's all I knew. But so again, we need to get the common message out to all the states, and then in particular our own states.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think dispelling the pervasive myths about geothermal and the reflexive reaction to, oh, it's cool, it works great, but it's way too expensive. I think that was a big aim of the communications committee before it got rolled into act, was to figure out how to really convey the value, the long-term life-changing value of this technology. And I think our messaging on that continues to evolve. So, Christine, New York Geo, probably one of the most mature organizations in terms of the change it has been able to affect at the state level. It astounds me what New York Geo has been able to accomplish with working with NYSERDA, working with the PSC, and such a wide range of stakeholders. Tell us a little bit about the history, the evolution, and what you hope for the future.
Thanks, Ryan. So I'm also pretty new with the organization, so the history is I'm not 100% on that. And John Chivacco is on the call, so if we really want to dive into the history, but I do know we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year, and we're looking forward to that celebration at our conference in Brooklyn, October 22nd and 23rd. And celebrating, the folks that came together, not unlike what Jeremiah said, and 10 years ago and said, hey, we need to have this group so we can advance geothermal and its technologies in New York State. And that's what they've done. Our vision now is the same as it always has been, and that is to advance geothermal and ground source heat pumps and those technologies in New York State. The board and the members are active, and the reason why we have the relationships that we do with NYSERDA and the Public Service Commission and the utilities, taking the opportunity and the time that is required to advance our technology requires the commitment of those board members and of the members to take their time and their expertise and share that with the decision makers in our state. And in doing that, they just elevated our organization to the level that we are and the respect that we have in New York State with our state agencies, and even at a federal level. Yesterday, as an example, there was an open house of a multifamily low to moderate income housing project, and Congressman Tonko called out John Chivacco and Aztec Geothermal by name, and that's really important that names and descriptions are on the lips of our federal decision makers, and that doesn't happen without a lot of energy put into a state association that is going to advance. That's our job, is to advance geothermal and ground source heat pump technologies in New York State.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see the impacts that you've had. And I mean, like my mantra in the realm of advocacy is persistence, polite persistence. You don't want to upset anyone by annoying them too much, but it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. And I think just staying in the faces and reminding these decision makers whose focus is so spread, they have to be responsive to so many constituents and so many different interest groups. They have a tendency to forget about you if you're not actively engaged. So I want to go back to something. Oh, go ahead.
Well,
Christine.
I just also want to say the education piece, because we keep talking about education amongst ourselves as well as consumers, and our representatives are also our customers potentially. And so I think that education piece, and going back to what we said earlier about all of us having that same vernacular, we're all saying the same thing the same way, is really important in advancing all of us, everybody that's speaking today and everybody that's on the call.
Absolutely. Brandon, you said something earlier that piqued my interest, and it was you're talking about kind of growing MGEA and how you realized you needed to move beyond just the same old folks who were coming together once a year, convening every other month on a board call to talk about the same old things. How you hired somebody to help facilitate that? Do you want to talk about that process? And then I'd like to quickly go around the room and talk about what your organizations are doing to broaden your reach beyond just the die-hard geothermal professionals who are going to stay engaged come rain or shine. Brandon?
Yeah, so it was a private consulting firm. I don't remember the name, but his name was Locke McCabe, and that's what they do for a living is get people to think outside their normal boxes. And it wasn't necessarily an inexpensive endeavor, but the board that we had on the MGA felt that we needed to do something, so we made the investment in it. The board also committed to it because it was. We locked ourselves in a room with him for 10 hours and hammered this thing out on what we wanted to look like. And there was a lot of hard-hitting questions in it in terms of, what do we want to see out of our organization, um, and the great thing about it was he was just phenomenal in directing us as, okay, you want to do this? How do we do it? These are the steps. Who's going to take that step? When's it going to be done by? So it held our feet to the fire, and slowly and surely we started knocking off the action items. And as Ryan mentioned, our last couple conferences, were just phenomenal in content. Who we were able to get to it, and one of the thriving goals that we determined that we needed to have was value for our members. These everybody's busy, and you join these organizations and you sit on Zoom meetings and whatever, but if you're getting something out of it, you're going to put something back into it. And that's really the hard-hitting focus that it really made us all kind of wake up and see what we needed to do. And we've made a lot of changes since then.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see. And I'll open it up to Kathy, Christine, Chad, Jeremiah. Anything to add about sort of widening the tent? How do we get more people to come to the party? Is there anything your organizations are actively doing in terms of outreach?
I can tell you, I think it's important. We also have education and certification classes, which bring in a lot of new members and new people within the organizations. And again, the outreach that we have with our group buy programs and our power hours are bringing, different groups, with the Sierra Club and just other environmental groups in that can help us.
Yeah, Ryan, I'd like to expand on what Kathy said. We actually just had one of our Mogeo board meetings this morning, and one of the things we're talking about are some festivals that are coming up. Earth Days 365, I think, is one in Missouri, and there's a green festival and at the Botanical Gardens, and that's going to draw in that crowd you were talking about. They're not directly involved with the ground source heat pump industry itself, but they're passionate about conservation or renewables, or all the things that we still encompass as a technology. And you can start creating other allies out there that are helping to spread the word about the technology, even though they're not, again, directly involved. They're not drilling, they're not installing these units, they may not even know much about them. But once you educate them and you bring them into the fold, that can really make a difference in your state. So that's what we're looking to do.
Chad, go ahead, and then we'll go to Brandon.
Yeah, I think just to expand on a couple things, I think what Jeremiah was saying about connecting with others and that kind of a thing. I think for ourselves at OGA, I think we're continuing to try and affiliate ourselves with other like organizations or like associations or companies that would have some common interests to what we have. I think that'll continue for us, maybe more than we have in the past, as we kind of move forward. Christine had said, I had conversations with Christine in the past about like, how did you guys become so successful? And I think the one thing that they have at NYGEO is that's important, I think, to maintain is a really active board. So when you've got a board that's not just, a group of people that want to be on a board, they actually want to be involved and put the time into making some of this change happen. I think that's a huge value. So we're continuing to kind of push that way. I think our board is relatively active that way. And then from what Brandon was making a comment about actually having a staff member. So that's a real challenge, right? Because that has a big impact on revenue and do you have enough revenue to support that person? But I think it's really important to, if and when you can add that staff member, I think it's a very positive first step. But again, just having the support of the industry and the members to be able to give you the resources to do that. Some of the events that we do, certainly conferences and things like that, are important to help us kind of generate that revenue to be able to maybe try and get there. So yeah, that's
Well, really well said. Yeah, and I think we can all look to Christine for some pointers on how best to execute a strategy. It helps when you've got like Yen, Zach, John, and you know that and the others on your board. You've got such a great board, and that's really key. Brandon, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, Chad kind of mentioned it. You know, it's involving a lot of the other organizations that are sister organizations to geothermal. You know, and here in Michigan, we've got the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association. You know, perfect company to partner with. Net Zero, Green Home Institute. You know, we do a lot of sharing of you know, memberships. So we'll join their organization, we get them to join our organization. So that helps not only grow the organization, but it helps you see things in your organization from a different point of view, you know, on the renewable side, and things that you might just be so focused on geothermal, but you also need to know what's happening in the air source heat pump market, right? So I think having those sister memberships is a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Fantastic point. So
Yeah.
I want to get to. Oh,
If
go
I
ahead,
could just
Christine.
talk about, you know, what, you know, the foundation that, you know, NIGEO has had for a very, very long time. And that is, there's a group, it's a collective group, Renewable Heat Now, which is all of those groups everybody's talking about, and they meet once a week. Board member Bill Nowak is very active with them, and John Rath, who's our director of operations, participates in those meetings. And so they're engaged with all of those organizations that are advancing decarbonization and electrification for New York State. And it is very important to collaborate with those organizations who are just advancing the message of electrification and decarbonization. And geothermal is the, you know, our constant message is geothermal is the best way to achieve that. From a heating and cooling standpoint through those other organizations. And we support those organizations when they write letters. John Rath does a very good job of making sure that they include ground source heat pump or geothermal in their letters when they're talking about how to decarbonize or electrify New York State. And so making sure that we have that voice with those other groups is very, very important, and that we can help amplify their voice, and then in turn they can help amplify our voice. So I do think that's very, very important. And the same thing with utilities. So John Rath does a heavy lift with that, with our utilities, and participating in rate cases, and making sure that when they're putting their plan forward to the Public Service Commission, that we provide comments, and we make sure that they understand the value of geothermal on the grid, and that, you know, that you can add more and more, you know, lines, but, you know, we can help make them better. And so choose geothermal, choose ground source heat pump. So making sure that that message is out there with all of those players. And NIGEO is very fortunate to have staff, to have me to kind of herd the cats a little bit, but also to have JR, who does a lot of the heavy lifting on those very important partnerships with our utilities and our other groups.
Absolutely. And you know, I've seen this emerging broadening of the coalition beyond building decarb, sort of emissions reduction and climate focused organizations, to now include labor groups. I mean, the UTENJA in New York really came about through the support of the pipe fitters and other trade organizations. And so I see that this emerging broadening of our coalitions to include labor, environmental NGOs, building decarb advocates, and you know, builders, on and on. There are so many organizations to partner with, and if we do that, I think we'll really go far. So let's talk quickly about challenges. What are some of the real obstacles as organizations you face, both from a sort of a membership retention and recruitment perspective, but just from a purely organizational perspective, what are some of the bigger market challenges you see? What are you trying to overcome as an organization in the marketplace? We talked a little bit about the reflexive, it costs too much sort of reaction. What are some of the other market challenges or organizational challenges? Let's do a quick round the room, starting with Kathy.
Challenges. It seems like there's a lot of challenges at times. Um, one of the biggest challenge I have to say is time. It's time, your members' time, it's getting them involved. They don't have the time. And then it's staff time with trying to, do all the bookkeeping, collect the money, stay after people to pay their membership. It's also very important for us as leaders to, get the message out on the importance of membership, the value of membership. And sometimes people just don't see the intangible benefits of membership, advocacy, having that unified voice, helping our members succeed by, just promotion, but it's not that I can hold it in my hand and here's $5 back from your membership. But so I think that it's just finding um, the time to get the message out, to get the right message out to the right people. And um, it's an everyday challenge, but it's happening. And with groups like this, I am very thankful that I'm involved in ACT. I'm involved with other state state leaders so that I can learn from them. There's no sense of redeveloping the wheel when the wheel has already been developed. Just borrow it, make a few tweaks, and make it your own. I mean, New York and Illinois are very different, but we're very similar. And other states, it's been nice working with Jeremiah. I can't wait till they have their conference, and maybe we can have a joint conference together along the border. And you learn different ideas. When I heard Brandon say something about the groups that he's getting involved in, that common, sharing of the membership, I'm like, oh, great idea, Brandon. Guess what's on my to-do list? So it's we're here for each other to help with challenges.
Thanks, Kathy. That's really meaningful. Christine, what do you have to say about challenges?
Oh my goodness, no.
Pulling off a
I think
conference?
the challenges are twofold. There's challenges in any organization, any association or trade organization that's trying to grow and develop. I think membership is really super important. And as Kathy said, we don't have that, here's your rebate back, but it's the things that we do on a daily basis to advance the technology. If it weren't for NIGEO, those things would not be happening. And we need members to do that. We need your membership dues to help pay my salary, to help pay for the time that we put together a conference, the time that it takes to go and advocate and spend the energy to tell everybody that needs to listen to us about geothermal. And that's where membership comes in. And any of our organizations, we are stronger with our members. And we need more members. All of us need more members. IGSHPA needs more members. And then you can pay to play, or you can just pay. And that comes to committees or working groups. So when you join an organization, you may choose or choose not to participate in a working group or a committee to help advance that. A challenge I see for all of us in the industry is workforce development and getting people properly trained with their certifications through IGSHPA to do geothermal and do it properly. So we don't have those problems that Jeremiah was mentioning. So Jackie's on the call today, I saw as well. So Jackie, as a member, is helping helping us write PON 3981 with NYSERDA so that we can create a fund to help advance and get more people certified in geothermal, whether it's the accredited installer program, or whatever the new iteration will be. But calling on those members and saying, hey, I need you to help me with this. They'll say yes almost 90% of the time. If you just put it out there and say, please join me, they probably won't. So being your own advocate for your organization with your members, I think is also very important. I don't think we do the best job out of it because it's just JR and I. But those of you that are on the call, that are listening, that are members of any of our organizations, what can you bring forward? How can we help you? And how can you help us? because we are in this together. Our goal, our jobs, our lives are to advance geothermal and ground source heat pumps.
That's a rallying call. I love it. So we're running short on time. I don't want to cut Chad, Jeremiah, or Brandon off from the challenge question. If you have anything real quick, I do want to get to a couple other things. Go ahead,
I would just
Chad.
say, oh, go ahead, Chad.
Sure. I was just going to say, I mean, just industry challenges that we have, I think I mean, we're always up against the air source heat pump industry right now is the biggest challenge that we have, and we're kind of getting our butts kicked a little bit up here in Canada by that industry, and really need to do a lot more GR work and advocacy and lobbying to make sure that the message about geothermal is getting out there to the right people. Because I think right now we haven't been doing a good job of that here for a long time, and so we really want to try and learn from some of what you guys are doing down there right now and involve as many people as we can to make sure that we can change that.
Yeah, it's a major challenge. Jeremiah, what were you going to say?
Actually, Chad said exactly what I was going to say. We've got all kinds of interesting information coming from that industry that really makes it difficult to convince somebody that the correct path is ground source heat pump, as far as energy efficiency and renewability and all that kind of stuff. And I kind of want to take that back to, this is one of the good things about an association in your local area. You can do that grassroots effort right there. GeoExchange and IGSHPA does what it can, but it's spread so thin over the entire nation. You need to concentrate some of that focus with local people, talking to their neighbors and their friends, and any other consumer they have, to help, start those conversations up to combat some of that, I'll say, misinformation that what this other technology can do versus ground source heat pump technology. So exactly, the air source heat pump is one of the biggest industry challenges right now.
And well, I think that leads to this comment that Steve Kapp in the chat or the Q&A made about working with utilities. We could have a whole other hour discussion about the work and engagement of geo organizations with utilities. I really do believe, to Chad's point, if we can convince utility companies of the benefits to the grid and to consumers or customers of this technology, we're going to be home free. It's going to be game over, and geo will become a default technology in a lot of ways. So Jeremiah, I know much of your membership is focused around rural electric cooperatives. Christine, the work you've done with all of the New York utilities is amazing. Chad, I don't know if you briefly want to touch on utility engagement.
Yeah, we recently have been a little bit more engaged with the IESO here in Ontario, and I think one of the things that we tried to communicate to them to kind of eliminate some of this cloud that we have with air source heat pumps and where information's coming with ground source is kind of just communicating them that if they're not getting the information about geothermal from us, then those people are maybe not representing us, right? Like the industry has chosen us in Ontario to represent them. And so please come to us for that information if you don't know, right? So, they've just launched a program recently in Ontario that excludes water-to-water heat pumps. And one of the reasons they excluded it, I had a call with one of their technical people. One of the reasons they excluded it is they didn't believe that it could do chilled water for air conditioning purposes, and they wanted to be reduced peak load in the summertime. And so I had to educate them about water-to-water heat pumps and that for decades we've been doing exactly that. We've been providing cooling and that kind of a thing. And I asked them where they got their information, and the information didn't come from us, where they captured that information or that knowledge. So that's where I think it's really important to stay involved with those utilities to make sure that the real information is getting to them. Because there's other people that might be sharing with the right intentions or not the right intentions. So you definitely want to kind of lobby and get in front of those people as much as possible.
Yeah, well said. We're coming up to time. I do want to acknowledge some other comments and questions in the chat. Janine said, It's a long process and definitely involving state or provincial federal ministries with an energy efficiency agenda. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Janine. It is a lot of work, but persistence pays off. Those other players also need to understand what it is, and the sister memberships help. Otherwise, they hear the nice buzzwords, but they don't know how they can really integrate it into their programs until they better understand it. So true. Engaging with partner organizations, building those bridges and those relationships is key. Ruben asked a couple good questions. How many regional geo orgs are there in the US and Canada? I know off the top of my head, California Geo is quite active. They have some great monthly webinars. In fact, I just got an email this morning about one. If you're not on the California Geo email list, you should be. There's a lot of great activity happening there. Minnesota and Wisconsin both have a geo association, as does Pennsylvania and Maryland. And then I'm also on the board of the New England Geothermal Professionals Association, which covers Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And I feel like I might be forgetting one or two. Are there
Iowa.
other provincial? Sorry.
I'm saying
Chad.
Iowa has one here in the
Oh, yeah, of
States.
course, Iowa.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, provincially, we have certainly ones that I'm aware of off the top of my head here. Certainly ourselves here in Ontario, we've got Manitoba, a relatively new group out in Alberta, and a very new group that's about to start in the province of Quebec as well. So lots of exciting things happening, and looking forward to those groups and the success they'll bring in their areas.
Excellent. And I do, Ruben made a really good point or asked a great question, and I just took you off mute, Ruben, if you want to. I know we're getting real close on time, but you said it's worth considering what happened to associations that are no longer. Lots of lessons learned and insights from them. Speaking as a former chair of the now defunct GeoExchange BC, I think you raised a great point. Would you like to make any comment on that, Ruben?
Yeah, just in the interest of time, I mean, GeoExchange BC was, probably the oldest and longest running in Canada. It started around 2000, ran for close to 20 years. I mean, we effectively went bankrupt. We were in that pit there was a bit of a downturn in the market and resources dried up and all that stuff. We did some amazing work. It was grassroots, really volunteer based. And I was the chair for a long, like 8 years of it or something, and learned a heck of a lot. And in the associations I'm involved in now, there's some in Western Canada, what I see at OGA, what I see even being talked here. It's all been done. We've been through it all before, right? There's stuff related to our technology, the nature of the industry, the challenges of working with grassroots volunteerism, all that stuff. So I try to bring that to some other associations I work with, and I just, there's a new energetic chair, and he's idealistic and it's going to, kind of change the world. And when stuff comes up, I try to guide them or provide that feedback. So I just encourage us to somehow incorporate that in. We all know of past ones in Canada and the US, and can draw from that. So just my just a recommendation there.
Yeah, what's such a wonderful point. And I mean, Jeremiah, I think Missouri Geo is kind of a revival of a past existing organization. So, and I think some of this reflects the ebb and the flow of the industry over time. You can look at sales and kind of impacts and performance and jobs in the industry. We've been on this roller coaster for decades now, but truly everyone I talk to believes that our time has come. And why is that? Well, at least in the US, we've got the Inflation Reduction Act, and I know there's been some significant advancements on policy with regard to building decarbonization in Canada as well. So you've got these federal policies proliferating, and then you've got state and local or regional policies, and then just the trend, the global mega trend toward building decarbonization. So the stars are aligning, and I think it is so important and imperative that we as an organization stay coordinated, which is why GeoExchange and IGSHPA, the bond has never been stronger. I talk to Jeff nearly every day. We're incredibly coordinated in our approach and focus. And ACT, that's why I think it's important to get involved with IGSHPA, its committees, the ACT committee. I will give one, I know we're over time, but I just want to once again give a shout out to Donna Kyler, who is a driving force on the ACT committee. Donna, I took you off mute. If you want to just say parting shot, anything, any words of wisdom for us?
Come on, Donna, you can say it. I can hear it. I can hear it.
That's okay, Donna. You are a guiding force for us in many, many ways. This has been great. I wish we could go just a little bit longer, but I do want to be respectful of time. Does anyone want to say in 10 seconds just a takeaway? I know you all have conferences coming up in the spring. I might see many of you on the line in Brooklyn in a couple of weeks. Christine, I'm so excited to be there in person. 10-second parting shot. Let's go around the room and I'll start with Brandon.
Go Tigers. That's where I'm at. So it's a big day today. No,
all right, Jeremiah.
Good luck, everybody. It's a tough industry, but good luck. You know, we can fight our way.
All I'd say is if you haven't already, join your state association. And if you don't have a state association, give me a call and we can talk about how to start one up.
Wonderful, Chad.
Get involved. You can be part of the change.
Thank you. Well said. Christine.
I would say join your local organization, join the international organization, and collaborate. Collaborate. We are stronger together. You do not have to create anything. We are stronger together.
And this team within IGSHPA is an incredible clearinghouse for best practices, information sharing, etc. So Kathy, last word.
Go to the IGSHPA GAOI conference, March 11th through 13th, 2025 at the I Hotel in Champaign.
Wonderful. We'll see you all there. Thanks so much. Really appreciate you all dialing in and participating. Until next time, thanks everybody.
Thanks for having us. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.